Jonesy and Amanda.
Jam Nation.
I remember so well following the story of the people on 7up, the 7up documentary. You never saw it, Brendan, did you?
No, I do know of it, but I've never watched it. I've seen little clips of it, but I think it might have been before my time when it first started.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary series.
It's fascinating.
It takes the idea, originally inspired by the Jesuit motto, give me a child until he is 7 and I will give you the man. And the English version this is an English series by a documentary maker, Michael Apted, who's passed away in the last few years. But it was the idea also of looking at class divisions. Who are you when you're 7 and who are you as an adult? But I'm sure that all of them who signed on had no idea that they'd have to do this every 7 years until 2019. The last one was when they were 63 years old.
And so it was always 7 up and then 14 up, then 21 up.
Yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
How good's my maths?
Then 28, 35, 42, 59, 56 and 63.
They're not the lotto numbers, by the way.
It is a lot for a kid to live up to, because we first meet them when they are 7 and all their young opinions as young teens, and particularly the young entitled ones who come from more money. It's a lot for some of them to live up to. And I know one of them dropped out when he was 21. He went on to be a journo because he just, every time you've got to answer to yourself. And it's interesting, there's a young girl called Jackie in 21 Up. She's from the East End. She'd already been married by the age of 21. And Michael Apted, the filmmaker, says, have you tied the knot too young? Well, over the years, she had kids, she divorced, she remarried, divorced again. She raised her kids as a single mum. She was so feisty and strong, and that question kind of hung over her. And in 49 Up, she fights back and called out the filmmaker for underestimating her. Right. And that's what's so interesting. You see these kids when they're little, and they're burdened by the puntsy stuff they say or their dreams and their hopes. Imagine having that laid out every 7 years to see if you've lived up to your potential.
Yeah.
It would be so hard.
Actually, there is quite a toll on that, because when you think about it, it sounds kind of fun, but if you were the protagonist of this,
you would feel you had to have some kind of worthwhile life.
Yeah.
And if you've chosen differently to what you wanted and you're happy with that, you'd have to defend your decisions. It would be very, very hard. Well, one of them has passed away. His name is Nicholas Hitchen, and he kind of defied the notion of who you are as a working class small kid would lead to who you were going to be. That's what's been so interesting. He grew up in a one-room rural schoolhouse and went on to be a PhD scientist. He had an extraordinary intellectual life. Here he is as a little kid.
Do you have a girlfriend?
I don't want to answer that. I don't answer those kind of questions.
He stood out early for knowing himself. He really did. So smart. Yeah. He's passed away at the age of 65 from throat cancer. In 63 Up, he spoke about the fight he was having with throat cancer. He was living in America. He had become, as I said, an eminent PhD scientist. But he didn't want to talk about girlfriends. But how cute are these little, listen to how upper class these little 7-year-olds sound.
What do you think about girlfriends at your age?
And
What do you think?
I've got one, but I don't think much of her. And they always take you away from whatever game you're playing yourself. Yes. They say, I don't want to play that game. Or silly things like and they start crying. Yes.
Oh, I don't like the girls. I've got one, but I don't think much of her.
Out of the mouths of babes.
One of the saddest stories through the seam of this entire documentary series was Neil.
What happened to Neil?
Well, here's Neil as a little 7-year-old, gorgeous boy.
When I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. But if I can't be an astronaut, I think I'll be a coach driver.
Tell me about coach driving and all that.
Well, I'm going to take people to the country and sometimes take them to the seaside. And I'll have a big loud speaker in the motor coach and tell them whereabouts we are and what we're going to do and what the name of the road is and all about that.
Oh, so gorgeous.
Wasn't he cute?
But what was so hard was that when you saw him then as a 14-year-old and then as a 21-year-old, well, we now know he had schizophrenia. He had mental illness. But when you see him as that bubbly little kid and then he was so withdrawn and different.
So that happened when he was 21.
Well, I think I even noticed it at 14.
Yeah,
and
right.
I remember in my ignorance, I'm similar age, thinking, what's his family done to him? How have they stripped, not what a nut, how has that family stripped the joy from him? But how hard it must have been for his family to see all that too.
So he's dead now too?
No, he's alive, but he became homeless for a while, a period of time. I think he was living in a cave somewhere. Jeez. But he's joined the church, I think, in his 50s, but he's been a loner.
But he hasn't
and has
been
had to
back on the
struggle.
show.
Yeah, he kept up with the show.
So he keeps coming back on the show.
Yeah, but he's a recluse, and sort of a drifter. And then do you remember Tony? If you've loved this show, you will know Tony. He was this feisty little kid from the East End.
Tony was brought up in the East End of London.
I want to be a jockey when I grow up. Yeah, I want to be a jockey when I grow up.
What will you do if you don't make it as a jockey?
I don't know.
What do you think you would do then?
Long on taxes.
At 21, he was on the knowledge, and by 28, he owned his own cab.
I'll give you this story which happened. The doorman called me up and it was Buzz Aldrin, the spaceman. And we drove out the forecourt of the hotel and a cab pulled up and taxi driver said, "Can you get his autograph?" So I heard it and say, "Mr. Aldrin," I said, "can I have your autograph, please?" And the cabbie said, "No, I don't want his autograph. I want your autograph." And I couldn't believe it. I said, "You're joking, ain't you?" And to this day, I thought myself, I'm more famous than Buzz Aldrin. He was the second man to land on the moon.
The spaceman.
Yeah, the spaceman, the sliding doors of their
gotta
lives.
watch that.
It's
You
an
put it all
incredible
together.
series, and how sad it is to have lost Nicholas, but it's an amazing series.